Here is a story told to the children of Africa.
Through this message and future talks, I aim to expose you to the collective wisdom of these giants who have lived and continue to live through us.
And the drum call is when we invite our ancestors, the benevolent ancestors, to come and be with us. That energy of the drum. So for the first half hour, that's our meet and greet. So we ask everybody to come out at 1. And between 1 and 1:30, that's just community building. We haven't seen each other all week, so that half hour is for us connecting with one another. And I just wanted to greet you because I know they said it was going to be snow, but that didn't hold the Africans back. We understand the importance of when you're in Baltimore City, and for everybody's online, you may not know, but they're calling for a blizzard. But the Africans know that community is so important. So I just want to thank you and greet you and welcome you to Iron Gia Fellowship. After the drum call, we'll do a libation and we'll kind of start with the program. But again, from 1 to 1:30 is going to be our time to just socialize and gathering. And 1:30 is when we start our program. So please be free to talk, to share, and to exchange. And very sure, and all these beautiful, talented people coming to share wisdom. There's truly the new griots. And with no further ado, we're going to bring up this chief minister, and he's going to share his portion. And his topic is the African-centered revolutionary king. Please receive our dear brother. Please receive our dear brother. Please receive our dear brother. We got same music. Okay.
Greetings. Give all praises to the Universal Mother Father, the creative force of the universe. Honor to our ancestors, for if it was not for them, there'll be no us. Elders, I give reverence to you. May I have permission to speak?
That's it. Yes.
All right. I don't know how much time we got left, but
Take all the time you want, boss. Take all the time you want.
Look, I'm trying to do this new thing, right? Speaking like 15 minutes, right? You know, that's a thing, right? But greetings. I think it's a blessing to see as many people as we have here today on the snow day. I just got a message in my phone from a meeting that is going on virtually that someone said the snow is bothering them from getting there. I mean, I'm just saying. So I'm not judging that person. Maybe a little, but what I am doing is saying I'm honored to see so many of us here in person, and you know, with that type of weather, if it's supposedly out there. And so today, the Temple of New African Thought presents the African-centered and revolutionary king. All right, so I'm going to say walk with me a little bit today. I'm going to take my time but be expeditious at the same time. How am I going to do that? So I want to think, I want to reflect, and I had a thought last week that slipped me. But one of the things I wanted to say, talk to me. You know how to say, talk to me.
Come on. Talk to me.
So in African tradition, it's okay to talk. That's right. Typically, I'm a person, I like talk. I know we don't have a lot of time to talk today, but talk to me, I can't do it as well as Brother Montu, because he was taught by the wonderful K-Love. She said something like, give me a snap and a fit and all that type of thing, and give me hey, the girls go, yes, all that type of thing, right? I don't have that amount of energy to say that, but y'all understand, right? Yes. So give me some talk. So it's talk to me. All right, so we're going to talk about that. And I want to frame this message today in a way to say this is a way to reconceptualize our ancestors, our fight. Because there's multiple ways to look at things. And I think sometimes, Brother Curtis mentioned earlier, many times we look at king from the wrong frame. And many times let's say that is actually intentional. Because we don't know much about King. We know two things about King. He had a dream, and there's some people saying that wasn't all the King said. We know those two things. But that's about it. I mean, some of us know. I know Mama Donnie knows, because she just gave us a whole rendition. But nonetheless.
I've met Dr. King.
You met Dr. King?
Yeah, in 1965 at Coppin State Teachers College. My mother said, "You're not going to school today, come on, let's go see Dr. King."
Okay.
All right. My father introduced him. Started off saying, it's not going to take that long because he's a Baptist preacher, but as a Baptist preacher, it takes forever.
You said he'd take forever to talk?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to be a little Baptist today?
Yeah.
You got a little Baptist in you. You got a little lot. So let's go, family. So Dr. Who knows this person on the screen here? Don't cheat.
That's my mentor.
What's his name, Bob?
John Henry Clark.
He says, history tells a people where they have been and where they History tells a people where they have been and what they have been. Where they are and where they must. I'm sorry, let me move on this side of the screen. I'm feeling something a little weird off here, right here. And what they are. Let me say that all over again. History tells a people where they have been and what they have been. Where they are and what they are. Most importantly, an understanding of history tells a people where they still must go and what they still must be. They said Sankofa. And I think that is really important when we begin to look at history. And lots of times we look at history as a bunch of dates and all those type of things. And we sound good and we know the dates. That's important. But I think what's equally important is how does it inform and transform you? How does it inform you and transform you? I'm one of those people that's more about history, about how it transforms you. I probably won't even remember the lecture after I finish the lecture. But I know that something inside of me has changed, has grown, and it has impacted me in a way that helps me move about my daily life. Kunanoop, the eloquent peasant, in the Hosea says this: the balancing of the land lies in Mayat, truth, justice, and righteousness. Do not speak falsely, it says, for you are great. Do not act lightly, for you have weight. I want to slow it down, just go there. We might not get through all these slides, that's what I was going to say. But I want us to just reflect today. Because you have weight. Be not untrue, for you are the balance. And do not swerve, for you are the standard. You are on the level with the balance. If it tilts, then you will lean too. Do not drift. Rather, stay steady. Do not harm, neither act against the noble, for one is not truly great if he is great with greed. If you turn your face to violence, who will punish wrongdoing? This is in ancient Egypt. I am trying to set a platform or a stage here today that we've always fought. against injustice. But also, more than that, I want us to reflect on this in a way to say, where and how do we implement that particular excerpt in our own lives? To me, as I became a minister and we were studying the Hosea, this verse right here really stuck with me. Because it says, do not speak falsely, for you are great. Do not act lightly, for you have weight. Be not untrue, for you are the balance, and do not swerve, for you are the standard. You are on level with the balance. If it tilts, then you will lean to. Do not drift, rather stay steady. Do not harm, neither act against the noble. For one is not truly great if he is great with greed. If you turn your face from violence, who will punish wrongdoing? How many people think that right there, as we set this platform today, is something that in a different way perhaps Dr. King embodied?
Yes.
Y'all think so? I would agree. But our ancestors, millennia before Dr. King, were already doing it. I would argue that he was following in the ancestral spirit of those who came before him. I might not get through all these slides, but I would like to say that Dr. Marimba Ani always speaks about the vestiges of Africanity that lives in us. No matter how it shows up, no matter how it manifests in today, whether it's Christianity, Islam, whatever it is, I am saying that the African inside of us is still there.
Come on.
I'm suggesting now it doesn't matter how it's wrapped. It's about what's truly at the core. But I am arguing, I maintain that you are the standard. That you are the standard. I'm talking about every last one of us. When you walk with purpose, you understand that you are the standard. People ask me, how are you so disciplined? Because I see myself as a standard bearer. I truly do. We're in a time where people say, I'm not a mentor. Because we don't want to be disciplined. We don't want to be held accountable for a thing. Mentors can stumble and get back up. Mentors can make wrong turns and make bad decisions. But again, you are the standard. And as we see King has been framed in a way that he uplifted his people. But then there's other people trying to tear down his image because of some things at the same time. But the truth is, we all go through our struggles. I say here, as I said already, if you go back far enough, you will find that an African did a variation of what we have done today. Again, I said last week, as bright as I thought I was, I reflected on things, and the more I researched, the thing that I thought about, somebody had already thought about it before I even thought about it. I'm like, dang, boy, you can't do nothing. They already did it. But I will say that it is important that we do that thing in our very own ways. We reach and intervene in our own very ways. Everybody is needed in this particular fight or struggle. I know we don't like the fight or struggle word, but I'm going to bring it back. Because it is a fight for the liberation, the development, the healing, whatever you want to call it, of our people. But first we must heal ourselves, or be in this perpetual process of growth. So debunking myths, I said many ideas, thoughts, innovations, even those from people who you never met, are often falsely attributed exclusive to European origins due to the distortions of racism and its associated trauma. People like, Dr. King was a philosopher. How many people know that? How many people didn't know that? By show of hands. I'm talking about a philosopher, really a philosopher. He may not have written a lot, But he did right. But you may not see him in that way, but I think it's important to understand that he had ideas. And these ideas are often not even taught. These ideas, we don't even really dig deep into them other than he had a dream. And I will posit that dream was still beautiful. Because to me, I think that is purely African. I know we speak down on the dream, that little white boys and little black girls will hold hands and all of that. But the reality is, what is wrong with that? That is African. Why am I saying it's African? Because our hearts can't be determined by other people's hearts. No, we got to protect ourselves. But what I'm saying, at the core, having love for humanity is a very African thing. And sometimes you can't even understand and prepare for that amount of damage that others can cause you because it's not in your spirit. You've never been through a thing. How do you prepare for the very thing that you think is unlikely? That's unspeakable. That's undoable. That's an impossibility for humane people. People that's cultured. And I think culture is really important. I say that, again, Dr. King is deeper than what you see on the outside. And get into a methodology. I like to let y'all know, I am writing a book. I've been writing for some time. So when y'all see me go through these slides, don't feel bad for me, because it's going to add to my book. Y'all might like, look, he'll never get through his slides. But the reality is, it's going to help me write the book. And it's maybe, if I can't go as deep as I would like to, with the time allotted, maybe y'all pick the book up in the future. Ashe? So, methodologically, I think we have to have a methodology. We have to have a methodology. Because without it, we don't have a frame. And so what I put here is njia. Njia in Kiswahili means way or ways. So I think there's a way, and not only a way, but ways. I put here ways to understand the issue. I think we have to have a framework in examining what is actually going on, and we have to have a way to understand our core issues. I put here, develop a deep comprehension of the subject matter through cultural, spiritual, and psychological lenses. We have to have a way to understand. Then I put here ways to intervene with the issue. Ways of being. Ways that we show up. Ways that we create space. That's what way of being means. Way of liberating, I put here. That's, in other words, way that we grow. Ways that we develop. Ways that we change individually, collectively, and societally. We have to have these ways. So if we're always asking the question, I think we should ask the question, so how do I understand this issue? How do I look at this issue? How do I examine this issue? What framework am I using when I examine this? Am I using the one that I'm in my emotions and I'm just mad? Am I using Mayat? Am I using the Nguzu Saba? What am I using at this time? Because when we're highly emotional or non-emotional, cut off, or fully in them, many times it clouds our way of thinking. We have to have a framework when we find ourselves in those states. Are y'all following me? Yes. Talk to me.
That's right.
That's right. So, what did y'all just hear? Somebody help me.
We have to get a framework about thinking.
You want to say that?
We want to get a framework about thinking.
Otherwise, we're just moving in emotion.
Otherwise, moving
In emotion.
in emotion.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But if we have the framework, even though emotion is good, it will draw us back to the framework and have some substance and direction, because you're teaching us on the word Njia, ways, and we need a way to get beyond just our emotions and get to the solution.
Absolutely. Because it's all emotion. Whether it's cut off or you're all way in them.
In the African American playwright, August Wilson said, the sign on America's door is, leave your Africanness outside. My sign says, claim what is yours.
Look, we got to back up. Look, and that's my clap. You hear that? What you just did is my clap. I'm taking that. All right, Bob, thank you. So, way of being. What is way of being?
And I don't think emotions are bad, because emotion is energy in motion. But oftentimes we take that energy and displace it in areas that are not going to benefit us collectively.
Absolutely. So it's when we are extreme, when we're extremely cut off from them, which means that we are enslaved by them, because we are confined by them. Not even enslaved, we are detained by them. Let me think about it like that.
Right.
Is we're detained by it when we cut off. Because we shut down, we stop, we don't want to talk, we're stuck. But when we're fully in them and they're just running wild, I would say we're enslaved by them. Because we don't know what's next. And lots of us do not talk, we can't communicate with people because we don't know what we're going to do. We don't know what we're up to. I can't talk because I might punch her. You know, I might say something in my mouth that I don't want to say that I might have to regret later. But the more we come in balance and in sync with our emotions, which I say are spiritual, because from an African-centered perspective, all is spiritual, right? But the more we become centered, the more we're on our foundation of Mayat, truth, justice, balance, harmony, order, reciprocity, propriety, order, we can be balanced and we can move and navigate at our will, the way we want to move, not the way that the emotions have us moving. Ashe? So, way of understanding. I say we stand on the shoulders of giants. And I'm going to continue, and I want to do as we go throughout the ministry, I want to continue to really go over the concepts over and over again, because there's nothing like continuing to go over things, because it will entrench certain ideas and thoughts in our minds. So again, we stand on the shoulders of giants. Through these messages, I want to bring in our ancestors and their ways of understanding, their ways of being. Dr. King was what type of person, if y'all say his way of being? Spiritual. When you see him, how did he show up from what y'all see or what y'all saw? Calmly.
But still he walked in his authority.
So he was assertive, but also very calm and centered. Charismatic at times. So he could be very calm, charismatic, poignant, powerful. Y'all got another word?
Very humorous.
Very humorous. And fearless. So that was his way of being. He showed up like that. Is that something we can learn from? Is that something we can model? Is there any benefit in that? Do y'all say, is that African, or what y'all think?
Yes, very African.
I like to say Dr. Molefi Kete Asante says it like this. When we talk about Afrocentricity, we have to understand there's various models. Mom and Don, your favorite scholar. Afrocentricity is a mode of thought and action in which the centrality of African interests, values, and perspectives predominate. In theory, it is placing of African people at the center of any analysis of African phenomena. It enables anyone to master the discipline of identifying the location of Africans within any given phenomenon. In action and behavior, Afrocentricity reflects a devotion to the idea that the best interests of African consciousness are at the heart of ethical behavior. Furthermore, it enshrines the idea that blackness itself is a trope for ethics. He goes here and says, to be black is to stand against all forms of oppression, including racism, classism, homophobia, patriarchy, child abuse, pedophilia, and white racial domination. And this is how he explains Afrocentricity. So I know Dr. Asante might disagree with me, but I say that Dr. King is a prototypical Afrocentric person before they framed it in this academic way. We can't act as if everything's not connected. I'm saying even the very fact that we say Hotep. What's another word? What's another greeting? Habarigani. Give me another one. Jumbo. Give me another one. Give me another one.
What's up?
Okay. How many of them were meant peace? How many of them meant peace? Most of them, right? We can't act like the Nation of Islam ain't on the Nation of Islam and other people when they said peace and all these other things that didn't get kind of is part of our culture. We just found another word in another language to say the same thing. We didn't want to say Assalamu alaikum. We wanted to Africanize it. Well, you said you meant that way? You said Masalaikum Salam?
That's a freedom, right?
Walaikum Salam. All right, peace, brother. So look, this is what I also want to say. Look, so he says, the most important piece I want to really point out in Dr. Asante's frame, there's a few things. One, Dr. Asante said anybody could be an Afrocentrist. If anybody, including white people, can be Afrocentrists, I think a black Christian could be one. I mean, Dr. Asante might debate me, but he might change now because being a human being is a little different now. But if y'all can see when he was here last, what he said, with that little Christian question really get him a little bit. You're like, I don't know about that. But nonetheless, I will argue, as if it's an academic, scholarly framework, that it can evolve and others can adapt it. And I'm saying, and I argue, and I maintain that it deserves to be done so. He says here, Afrocentricity's goal is to liberate African people and by extension the world. Well, I mean, that's in his book from like 2002 or something. Well, does that sound like King? No? Say it again. He spoke about the world, right? But he specifically was fighting in a major part for who?
Black people.
So freeing and liberating his people, right? But he didn't count anybody out because he thought that freedom and liberation could only come about if you free all people. Now we might disagree with that or agree with that. I don't know if it's possible, but the reality is I think it's a great idea. We gotta have an ideal somewhere, and I lean to that direction. I got a slide here that says that. But some of us say, it'll never be over, and never do this, and never do that, and you'd be right. And that we also say that we'll use the same tactics, the same warmongering ways to gain our freedom. Some of us, and I think that's to be respected. But at the same time, those who say that these things will never end and people will never get over it and all that type of thing, I also think there's a flip side to that. And the flip side to that, there'll always be people that's out here looking for love, peace, harmony, reciprocity, all these things. So it's true that there are always going to be people that are racist. It's true that there's always going to be people that's going to be looking how to get you. It's true that there's going to always be people that's out here that don't mean you any good. But at the same time, it's also true that there's going to be people out here that's looking for love, harmony, looking to uplift you, all those type of things. And in fact, it's also true that a little bit of all that is inside of all of us, all the sides, and all the pieces, and all the directions. And it's not like you just wake up and you become a chump. Because Dr. King's not a chump. You see what I'm saying? It's not like you wake up, like, it's really hard to keep your composure. It's really hard to take a slap. I'm talking about from your significant other. I'm talking about I'm not a literal slap, I'm talking about a verbal slap. A slight. We gotta fight back. You tell me how hard that is. How easy that is. You can't even do it with your own partner. But you saying he's a chump and he's doing it with all types of people. Not just him, but all the people that were with him. All the people who practice a form of mayat, practice a form of culture in that time to discipline themselves so that they can fight the good fight. Y'all with me?
Yeah.
Bob.
Yeah, at the same time, you always be prepared for war. So it was the deacons of defense also was with them. A lot of people might not know that. Because it's the deacons of defense.
Yeah, but don't mess my thing up coming with the guns. We're gonna stay with but Dr. King was gonna go get a gun himself at one time.
Okay.
He was gonna go get a gun himself one time, and what he said, how can I be a bigot? How can I be a hypocrite? I can't do that, Sister Karen.
I was just going to say, as I was reflecting on Dr. King, I think something that we don't consider very often is how powerful resiliency is. Having the ability to stand in your truth, even when you are being opposed on all sides. And I think Martin Luther King displayed that beautifully, as challenging as it was. And something I made reference to is when he was protesting in Chicago and was hit in the face with a rock, to still, be able to stand on what you believe, even despite, to be able to stand on what you believe, even despite that type of opposition. Somebody hit you in the face with a rock. For some people, you be all gun-ho for a thing up until somebody physically touch you, and now you like, okay, now I got to beat you. But for him to stand in that power, I think that the relentlessness of resilience is a way to fight as well. And I think Dr. Martin Luther King was brilliant with that.
Thank you. And what I'm going to do, because for the sake of time, and I do want to respect the time, because one of the things we talk about is time and attention span, right? I just want to kind of skip past some of these slides. This is a class, this is a class. So, I got to say this one though. I would say that King's identity and approach. I would say he's a multifaceted leader. Dr. King may not be seen as a purist, but can be seen as an eclectic or practitioner embracing diverse perspectives. I am not arguing that he's a purist when it comes to Afrocentric ideas and thoughts. What I'm saying, you can see him as a person that is eclectic. And most of us are eclectic. I would say a multicultural. I would also say he was a multicultural advocate. But I think that quite like many of us, he later had some words to say about that. We'll go through that before we close down. I'll say multicultural advocate. He would likely score high on multicultural measurement, reflecting his inclusive and integrative approach. I'm saying on a psychological level, on a social, cultural level, he will be seen as, I would say, one, high as an Afrocentrist, and two, as a multiculturalist. Then I say what he wasn't though. In the same measurement, the same instruments, I'm talking about a psychological instrument, I would say that he's not an assimilationist. I would say he's not an assimilationist. He's not miseducated. Assimilationist meaning that he is not one that says give up your Africanity to be a part of the greater society, to be a part of a U.S. citizen, that type of thing. I'm not a black person. I'm just American. No, he's not that. He's not miseducated. He's not self-hating. He's not anti-white for sure. And all of those what you would call those at the below, they are for the most part negative on one's development. Assimilation is not so much on a psychological level, but it does, to me, I think there's multiple levels we must look at. Assimilation is a developed identity, but the problem is it does nothing for our social cause. They have people who are assimilationists that do all right, but they ain't adding to the fight or the struggle. And they don't care. So I'm just American. I don't care about all that. You know, you do you. They living okay in that little world. You got something, Brother Martin?
Sometimes to their own detriment, though.
Go ahead.
Well, so it's to your own detriment when you don't have core value or believe in yourself being a part of a greater group, right? And now when something may happen to you personally, and you understand that I'm seen, regardless of how I think I present, you know, I'm still seen in this group, regardless of, you know, how I may show up. So sometimes that can be to your own detriment, because if something happens within your family or to someone that you love, and you feel the brunt of what that racism or what that exclusion may be, now it brings to light a different understanding, and now you have no one to fight with because you've been neglecting those people that will fight with you all along, to some extent.
Yeah, I agree with that on an anecdotal level. On a different framework though, is when you're assimilationist, you do believe you belong to a group. You just don't feel like you belong to this black group. Right. So the reality is, the research supports that they typically do okay on let's say wellness per se. But the reality is they think that they're part of the greater society. Right. And you're right, that to some degree, for some people, that becomes a very disturbing thing when they find out that blackness peaks out. But for the most part, that ain't happening. They feel very healthy. Right. You can't tell Clarence Thomas he ain't healthy. We see him as sick, but he think he's balanced. He ain't 8 and 12 struggle. So go ahead, Mom, down there.
I was just thinking about this organization. I can't really think, the Southern Poverty Law Association or something. Yeah, okay. I used to send them little contributions, and then I stopped because I noticed in their newsletter they had a list of hate organizations, and they put all these organizations that I look as black self-love organizations. I don't consider that a hate organization, but
like the Nation and like the Hebrew.
Yeah. So that's kind of tricky, I guess, but because I think that's a lot of our problem. People would ask me, was I anti this or anti that, and I said I'm anti not loving black people. I don't put so much emphasis on I don't love white people. I put my emphasis on I love black people.
Absolutely. Thank you. I see, Mama.
And that's how people can look at things. Because I remember I was cutting a young man's hair.
Because what happened is people looking at it online.
Oh, okay. I was cutting a young man's hair, and he happened to be white. So he was talking about hate groups. We was talking about hate groups. So he mentioned white supremacists and such. Then he mentioned also the Black Panthers. I said, oh, no. I said, you can't put them together. He said, yeah, because they're a hate group. I said, nah, they're not a hate group. But they're looked at as a hate group, you know what I'm saying, by society.
Right. Exactly and that's the poor framing right there, right? That's the poor framing. That's trying to maintain the status quo. And let's go. I'm gonna skip some things. Like Dr. King, I put here on the slide, nonviolence is not cowardice. I said King emphasized that nonviolence requires immense inner strength and courage. He says true nonviolence actively resists evil through moral and spiritual force. Nonviolence should not be a refuge for those who are afraid of conflict, he says. For y'all in the back, Dr. King said that nonviolence should not be a refuge for those that are afraid of conflict. And I maintain that a lot of us are afraid of conflict on very small levels, but have the audacity to critique this gentleman. I'm talking about we don't want conflict at our jobs. We don't want conflict in organization. We don't want conflict with nobody. We status quo keepers. We ain't even we not even asking. Just say something. Lots of us don't want to talk about, look, I know it's true. I mean, it's understandable, but how many people, some of us really would like to say something about Palestine, some of us don't care. But the reality is, lots of us keep our lips shut because we are afraid that we're going to lose what we got. And we have the nerve to be critiquing a person who put his life on the line. We also critique people like Mandela, who literally was blowing some shit up. Literally. I mean, you may have evolved, and people do evolve, and they do change. It doesn't mean you're a sellout. Because what happened is people change the way they see their method into bringing about liberation. And many of us, if we really had to be honest, we would say we've been on that roller coaster. If y'all haven't been, y'all stubborn. Mama Johnny said, I'm stubborn. I know you are, Mama. I took everybody off the list besides you. Look, I kept you there, Mama. I said, Mama Danu, she ain't never said yet that we giving up. She said, Ungawa? Black power. Again, he says, if cowardice is the only alternative to violence, it is better to fight. He didn't even say that. Guess who said that? Don't get mad at me. One of the people he studied, Gandhi. Gandhi said, if cowardice is the only alternative to violence, it's better to fight. I mean, I think that's sage wisdom. Dr. King echoed that. Fight. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of cowards. I'm sorry. In our community, I understand. But just express that. Really share that. Don't be acting like you down and you ain't down. Because when the thing hit the fan, a lot of people have to pay for that. When you think people are next to you, are going to be next to you when, you should hear some of the things people say to me. Some people, I'm not even going to repeat some of the things. And what I mean is, myself personally, I'm not asking you to do nothing that radical. Just asking just give a little bit of time. I ain't saying quit your jobs. I ain't saying do none of that. I mean, we can talk about, if we're going to have liberation, that talk probably has to happen someday. It might not be in our generation. But the reality is, we have the nerve to critique King and won't even pull at his tassel. The last 3 years of King's life. Mom and Donnie did the opening already, talked about the history, 1983 and that birthday and all that type of thing. But King's evolving understanding of racism. After Selma, which he was very optimistic, he says, we are on the move now and no wave of racism can stop us. That was in 1965. A shift in his perspective in 1967, he says, the fact is that there has never been a single solid, determined commitment on the part of the vast majority of white Americans to genuine equality for Negroes. And I think, go ahead, Mama. You say, yeah? Okay. She talking to me. So he says, the fact is that there has never been any single solid, determined commitment on the part of the vast majority of white Americans. And that is still true to this day. I don't care how much multiculturalism you're talking. This is what I'm talking about from earlier when Dr. King was talking about. I said, yeah, he did have a multiculturalist framework, but at some point he had to wake up. He was disillusioned by the reality of what white people actually would do to bring about that change. And he fought with liberal white people. And this is what you find in academia all the time, all day. They have all the catchwords, all the words that we use today out in the streets not knowing where we got them from, to do nothing. We do not believe there has to be a structural change. Dr. King spoke about structural change. He says, again, the fact is that there has never been a single solid, determined commitment on the part of the vast majority of white Americans to genuine equality for Negroes. He goes on to say, the roots of racism run very deep in this country, or our country. Admittedly, thousands of white individuals of goodwill have seen the moral light. They genuinely cherish the democratic principles of justice and justice over privilege. However, I must honestly acknowledge that they remain in the minority. That's not saying that nobody ain't down for you. You don't have an ally here. But the reality is we get it confused to believe that this represents some larger number of white people. I'm telling you, I was there too, like King at one time. I went to school with white folk. I was like, oh, they down a little bit. They down. Until I realized it's talk. I mean, I get it. It's talk for us. So what can I expect? The reality is talk for everybody, because going against a system is a lot of work. We don't want to lose the things we think we have, and we start hearing things no one ever said. But look, it will take some discomfort to bring about true change. And that is reality. I'm talking about in any aspect of your life. On an individual level, in your household, in the temple, in your organizations, in society. Mama and Faluka.
The discomfort is so important because it shows us where we really are and what we need to do to get to where we want to be. Discomfort is valuable because it shows us where we are and what we need to do to get to where we want to be.
And it makes you want to change.
And it makes you want to change. Key factor. It makes you want to change.
I share. But we have to have a framework. We have to have a discipline. Because discomfort without being disciplined will have you running this way or run another way. It will not have you standing on your square called my eye. Because if we only are going by our emotions and running, or cut off from them, we avoid it, ignore it, and make up all types of excuses. You know?
Right.
We begin to intellectually rationalize things, or we just are overwhelmed by it. But the reality is, King had more than a dream. He says, however, I must honestly acknowledge that they remain in the minority. I regret to say this, but the vast majority of white Americans are racist. I regret to say this, but the vast majority of white Americans are racist. Y'all, they ain't tell you about that King. Whether consciously or unconsciously, and we still talking about this today. Whether consciously or unconsciously, and that's what I say all the time. That's what you say. That's one of those points where you go back and you say, "Oh, your ancestors already said it. Damn, King said it. Oh, the King said it. Then you say, oh, King said it. Everybody, they embrace King after death and paint and create this false image and narrative of him when our own people were afraid of him. When our own people thought he was too radical.
Especially when you started talking about the Vietnam War. When you started talking about the Vietnam War, the Riverside Church speech he gave, why I oppose the war in Vietnam. Exactly a year later, he was assassinated, the same day.
I should.
He also said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
I should. Give that a round of applause, y'all. So, way of intervening. I'm going to just read this and see how it flows, and we'll close out. I want to also bring into our frame. Some of y'all might have seen some of the text messages. Y'all say, "Wait, is he saying another long threat? Another long one?" I ain't reading it. Read it. Just when you get time, read it. You get time, read it. I promise you, it's valuable. How many people know her? Dr. Linda James Myers, who framed something, an African-centered approach to psychology, and she called it optimal psychology. The definition of optimal psychology is a holistic framework that emphasizes the interconnectedness of all things, the centrality of spirituality, and the liberation and empowerment of individuals and communities. Y'all name her name right there. Developed by Dr. Linda James Myers. It integrates African-centered values to promote harmony, well-being, and the fulfillment of human potential. These are some of the core principles that Dr. Linda James Myers has set forth for us. And on a high level, I'll just go over the high level for the sake of time, and then y'all get my book and all that. We can go deeper into it, or y'all get her book too. But interconnectedness and harmony. Does that sound like King? Did he see the interconnectedness in all people? You know, when I was going through my walk early on, I think I asked my father. I said, you know, we love Bob Marley. How many people love Bob Marley? Give me a little Bob. Give me a little Bob. Give me a little Bob. That one is there. Yeah. You know, mama, don't give it up. Don't give it up. Emancipate yourself. And I also like that one that say, when music hits you, you feel no pain. I can't get the rhythm. I would have sing it part. Y'all scared. How you go, brother? When you feel no. I can't get it. So interconnectedness and harmony. Spirituality as a core element. How many people think that spirituality was a core element of King's mission, walk, life? This is an African-centered framework. I am saying, I'm arguing, I'm trying to make my point. Authentic self-knowledge encourages individuals to understand and embrace their true selves. Advocates for deconstructing false identities imposed by societal and cultural influences. Now, somebody say, well, you know, he might be halfway there on that one. But just think about the time that he was in. Look, I remember when I was little, my father was saying Jesus was black, and that was revolutionary. Now everybody's saying Jesus is black, even white folk. And then some people go a little further. I won't go there today. Yes, that's Papa. Be quiet now. Be quiet, Papa. Be quiet. I think you already started it up on earlier. Look, I told you some things. Bible keep that secret. Holistic and contextual perspective promotes a holistic understanding of individual considering mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual dimensions. You have to have all that to do the work that they were doing. Right? Values the context of culture, history, and environment in shaping an individual experience. You can't tell me, or you can, you know, we might debate a little bit, that King, in his approach, his intervention on an individual and societal level wasn't African at its core. I think it's so African, it's hard for us to reach there. I think it's so African because we see people as spirit. We see people past the trauma. We see people past the way they respond. And we have faith that there's something deeper inside of humans than what their reactions and their behaviors. And the reality is, many of us, if not all of us, when it comes to racism and all these type of things, are reacting to stimuli that even happened millennia before us. It's passed down generationally, epigenetically, but also we historically see the history in a way that is not true. The way that we see history is to re-traumatize us. I argue and I maintain that. So, just like any story, on an individual level, a person who is traumatized, their stories are fragmented. And I am suggesting, I argue, I maintain that our stories and narratives on a collective level, social level, is also fragmented. I've only shared with you little bits and pieces today about King. Only little pieces. that I know that, if we're honest, some of us never heard King talk like that. Most of us haven't heard King talk like that. Let's be real. I mean, I just studied it. I've been around the community for a long time, and then I just heard people say general statements like, you know, the king, that what they give this king this. They only talk about the "I have a dream" speech. But what did he say that was counter? Because at some point you begin to think they're just talking. Well, you know, they just saying that the king was different, and they're not showing you no evidence. So the only king you know about is the king that they gave you, because no one ever showed you and talked to you about certain things. They clip little speeches, but not show you things in full depth. And I say, go and do the research. It's real. So holistic and contextual perspective, I argue the king had that. Human potential and self-actualization, king had that. Collective responsibility, king had that. Again, this is an African-centered model, and I am suggesting that king falls within this, at least at high 90s. Cultural centering. Now, we might again debate about that. Liberation and empowerment, but I do think the culture centering was the culture that Africans had at the time they were living, at that time that was necessary for us. So I say that was African-centered culture. Because our culture didn't stop when we got on the slave ships. And I think that we should begin to respect and put some more respect on our experience in this country. I'm talking about this country right here. Because we feel so abandoned. We feel so hurt. We feel like imposters. And I'm telling you, we are not. We are not imposters. We are great. I'm not saying that because I don't do fluffy stuff. I'm saying we are great because the things that we've accomplished, the things we've overcome, the things that we've created in the process. Liberation and empowerment. I'm going to skip past these slides. King, MLK's Pan-African vision, emphasis on shared heritage. King referred to a sense of kinship between African Americans and Africans. Highlighted in the strive for freedom, African liberation was deeply tied to the African American quest for injustice. Pan-African vision believed in global struggle for human rights. He says injustice anywhere is a
threat to justice everywhere.
I share. Collaborating with organizations like the American Committee on Africa. King says true peace is not merely the absence of tension. It's not merely the absence of tension. Lots of us today believe that we can meditate and levitate ourselves out of tension. And I'm saying that I would argue, I maintain, as Mama Faluke suggested, that tension, that feeling is necessary. And I also would say it's spiritual. I say going through that process of riding those feelings, dealing with those feelings, mastering those feelings, is spiritual. It's grounding. It's my yacht. Knowing that those feelings and that tension is something that you can handle, overcome, deal with, and also liberate yourself and others with. So again, true peace is not merely the absence of tension. It is the presence of justice. Dr. King's ideals were not only revolutionary, but deeply interconnected with the global struggle for liberation and equality. He envisioned a world free from oppression, rooted in justice and harmony, a global community where African Americans and all people of African descent reclaim their dignity, identity, and power. A revolution of values, shifting from individualism to collective responsibility and love. No. He spoke about it. And he spoke about it in a way that says, look, they say, so what is it, socialism or capitalism? King said neither. He said it's a balance. And we talk about Maya, we know there's a balance. And I think I can connect with King because the reality is in African culture, African tradition, we respect the individual and the collective because it's both and, not this or that. And we understand if the collective is straight, the individual is straight. If the individual is straight, the collective is straight. Let us honor Dr. King, not by routine or commemoration, but
by embodying his vision. Resist oppression, uplift one another, fight for justice and equality. Dr. King's legacy challenges us to create the beloved community, a world where justice, freedom, and Afrocentric values inspire a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Mic check. Let's give it up once again for our minister and the wisdom that has flowed through him from our ancestors. We are grateful for that message. I just got a message that from attorney Taifa out of DC. I know Mama and Donu is familiar with Kinji Taifa. She had posted that the Honorable Marcus Garvey has been exonerated. And it took a long time. Y'all may not understand the symbolism, but you know, a lot of people have been fighting for reparation, and also, along with that, the exoneration of the Honorable Marcus Garvey. Even though it may feel like it's symbolic, I think it's important that justice has been served, and that scarlet letter and that blemish has been removed, and he's back in honor by this government. I think it's an important principle. But we're going to close out. It looks like it's getting kind of slushy out there. Again, I thank you all for coming and spending time with us. We'll be back on same black place, 5525 Hartford Road. Any announcement? I see some announcement going up.
Real quick.
Yes, sir. We got a few announcements. Come on, Baba. Let's go on the mic because we got people online and they need to hear all this good stuff. And I see Brother Haki and Mom and Donu had some announcements.
Yeah, I just want to share with the young folks that every year I did go down to march for Martin Luther King. You know what I'm saying? Every year I made that thing down in Washington, D.C. I don't know, Mama, was you down or not? You wasn't even here then, right? But at the same time, Martin Luther King wrote a paper on the mystic religions. If you never read it before, read it. The mystic religions. He even talked about Ausar and Asante in there. All right, I'll show you.
Thank you. Brother Haki, come on, brother. We're trying to close out. Anybody else?
All I wanted to say was if anybody's going to be here next week, we're doing the Karamu.
Karamu,
and
yes.
I started a list over here so you can put on there what you might want to bring. Karamu is feast. So if you can put what you want to bring on this list, that would help so we don't have a whole bunch of the same things.
Okay, so that sounds good. So next Sunday, same time, same place, after service, we're going to have a Karamu. So we're going to have a feast. So anybody that's in the listening audience, reach out to Baba Ausar, to the Minister Ausar for any dish that you would like to bring as we break bread with each other. And Mama Donu has a list for anybody that's in the house to sign. Brother Haki, come forward.
Thank you. Greetings, everybody. Brother Haki Ami here. It's beautiful to be here again. First, tomorrow I'll be on the Carl Nelson show, 6 a.m., talking about a few things, obviously. Many will be going to D.C. For a march. Reverend Al Sharpton will do that. So I'll be talking about that. But this Friday is my solar return, so we'll be here. I'm just going to do like some pictures, show some pictures. We do have a sax, 6 to 9 officially, but I'm going to start 6:20ish. My part of the presentation. But we have a sax and possibly some young people that's going to drum if the weather permit, because I don't want the young people coming out if it's rough out. But also, just really quick, in March there's the Ghana Independence Day. Interesting, we're talking about Dr. King because Dr. King was there for Ghana Independence Day as well. So we're going to do that at Sankofa Children's Museum. And it's going to be on the 8th. The Independence Day is the 6th, but the 8th is what we're going to do. That's going to be on a Saturday. But we got time to talk about that, but also Malcolm X tour, Baba, we're going to honor Baba Tunde, who used to do the bus trip to New York. So I'm bringing that back and have a few allies. But that's coming up on his birthday. And I'm working with Mama Nkechi on that as well. So we're going to do possibly a DC bus and a Baltimore bus on Malcolm X. It'll be his 100th birthday as well. So that's awesome. We're going to be strong here in Baltimore. All right? Yes, thank y'all. Thank y'all.
Yeah, give it up for Brother Haki. I think that's an important bus trip. I will be going to Malcolm X's grave site. I know they do that every year. For the 100th anniversary, I will be in attendance and on the bus. So if you are here and want to get on the bus, we're going up to celebrate Malcolm X's 100th birthday.
Oh, and we do have food. My credit card cleared. So we have free food for everybody. So for Friday. Yes, I'm sorry, I ain't
Family, we are at Temple New African Thought. We are soliciting those who want to help in different ways. You know, small ways, all major ways. So, I mean, anything from, as you saw here today, giving a poem or open up the door or helping sweep the floor. Even today, you can help us sit down. But also up to executive committee, ministerial committee, brainstorming committee, and maybe a committee that you want to bring up and think about. Because we want to get this information, we want to embody the information, but not just to have it, but to actually bring about actual change. Ashe? So get with me, or one of the elders, or Brother Curtis.
Why you say Brother Curtis like that? Give me that mic. Listen, this is real talk. We're trying to build a ministry. In building a ministry, we need ministers. And so whatever in ministry, we have to have an opportunity to study together. We can't do that on Sunday. We just exchange ideas. But during the week, it's important that anybody that wants to be a part of that ministerial committee, you know, assistant minister, associate minister, you just have a gift or talent that you want to come and bring. We invite you to do that. So we're going to start having class, and there's a process. It's almost like a rite of passage, right? You have to be tried and you have to be informed. So we just don't want anybody just coming up, but we want to take you through a process, and we're asking, is there anybody that wants to go through that process, that rite of passage, that study? It takes a lot to be able here to, did y'all see those slides? Yeah. Those are some beautiful slides. Give the slide. Yeah. Listen, that brother put together those slides. So that's the class. There's a process. So anybody that wants to be that, please see myself or Brother Sar or any of the elders. We're putting together a ministry, and it takes people to do that. And I just want to thank the DJ Carlos back there giving us a beat. Give it up for Brother Carlos, man. Y'all just don't understand that this brother is, as almost like a live musician, he's following our pace. And we got Brother Turan, and he's actually being able to capture this so people that can't come. Because people always ask us, you know, is this going to be on Zoom? So we have the infrastructure. We're laying a foundation. Please come and bring your talents. And we're just going to close out with 7 Harambes, and we're going to let you go and be safe on those roads. If you got to call somebody, just let us know. We got home safe. Please, let us know. And we're going to put our black fist in the air, and we're going to pull down 7 Harambes. On my count. 1, 2, 3. Harambe, 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 Harambe! Brothers greet your brothers, sisters greet your sisters, family greet each other. We'll see you the same black time, the same black place. Temple New African Thought. Peace. Thursday, we changed it.
Here is a story told to the children of Africa.
Through this message and future talks, I aim to expose you to the collective wisdom of these giants
who have lived and